welcome back. I'm Gala. I thought it would be fun today to talk about some recent book acquisitions and how they may slot into my future reading. Before we start though, I have some friends to introduce you to. This is Maxwell Mister. Maxwell for short. He's a real homie. And this is Miss Lady. She has some fun dangly legs. They will be joining us today from the sidelines. You can't see them there, but we'll get their reactions, don't worry. So I am going back a couple months, maybe 2 or 3 months in recent acquisitions of books, and we're just going to talk about them together. So first up, we have Navajo Witchcraft by Clyde Cochrane. I found this in my library. They have a section of like $1 to $2 books that they're getting rid of from their stock as they cycle new things in, and I found this. I don't think this is going to be the kind of thing that I sit down and read cover to cover because it's pretty technical in a lot of places, but I'm pretty interested in this. I'm just kind of curious to learn more mythos and folklore and witchcraft. So I'm pretty interested in this one. Next up, we have a couple of manga acquisitions. So if you watched my recent video, you'll know that I am a huge One Piece fan. So I purchased the newest One Piece. This is volume 107. I've been reading One Piece for like 15 years. So when I buy the new volumes, it's not that I haven't read the chapters already, but I like having all of them on the shelf because I reread the series frequently in part and parcel, and it's nice to be able to read physically. I will say, if anyone reads One Piece, maybe you can understand me. The physical English editions are not great, and the official translation for the series it's kind of rough. It's up in the air sometimes. It's not always great, so it's kind of unfortunate that I spend like so much money on all these physical editions when I don't really like the translations very much. But at the same time, it's really, really nice to be able to read them from an actual book. So that's volume 107 of One Piece. And then there was also this. This is Eiichiro Oda, the same person who wrote One Piece. This is a collection of his, basically like their short manga. They're called one-shots. So they're basically just one chapter of manga to complete an entire story. He's been writing One Piece since 1997. But even before One Piece was published and serialized initially in 97, he published a couple different versions of the first chapter called Romance Dawn in one-shots. So there's like 2 other one-shots of that first chapter of One Piece. One of them is in here, and there are also several other early one-shots from his before he started writing One Piece. So this is really cool because this is like 30 years old. And I've been saying for years, I can't believe that they haven't published this in English before, and I've read these stories all online before, but it's crazy because it finally exists in an English translation. So if you're a One Piece fan and you didn't know this came out, you should definitely check it out and read these because it's really, really cool to be able to check them out now. Better late than never, even if you haven't seen them before. And it's nice to be able to actually put this on the shelf because the only way to have read it before this was to read unlicensed translations online because there was never an official way to read it. So I'm really, really glad that this came out. And finally, we have volume 15 of Chainsaw Man. Again, this is not a new read for me. I've been reading Chainsaw Man for several years now. So when I buy the volumes, I've already read the chapters. But again, it's nice to reread from a physical volume and have them on the shelf. Plus, I think Chainsaw Man's covers are just really, really cool most of the time. Same for One Piece, but I really like the Chainsaw Man covers. I think volume 16 is actually out now, but I got this a little bit delayed. I don't really stress over picking up the new volumes of One Piece and Chainsaw Man because I've read the chapters anyway, so I just kind of pick them up when I get around to it. So yeah, I think 16 is out, but again, nice to just add this to the shelf. Next up, this was a really cool book actually. This is called Pull Me Apart. This was a gift from my dad for the holidays. I never would buy this kind of book for myself, but this is pretty cool. It's like every page is a different kind of like interactive element. Let me find a good one. So here, right, like interactive element, you can kind of pull it up and things happen on the page. It's pretty cool, honestly. And every page in the book has like something different on it. So this one, you can open the mouth. And there's stuff going on in there. I think they're pretty neat. And like I said, I would never buy this book for myself, but as a gift, it's pretty cool, and it's a nice coffee table book. We do have a coffee table, and I like to cycle through what books we keep on there. To be perfectly frank with you, we never have any guests at our house. We live way up in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. But I like having books on the coffee table for myself, even if we don't have any visitors. So this is a pretty cool one. Thanks to him again for handing this off to me. It's pretty neat, and he lives in North Carolina. I believe this is a local artist from the community he lives in, so it's cool to support local artists too, and I think it's a pretty cool book. Next we have up what is probably my favorite book on the entire table here, Sibley Birds West. I've been getting more into birding recently, very amateur, but like I said, we live up in the mountains and we moved here maybe like 6 months ago, so it's been really cool to start learning different birds that live in the area and really studying them. And I did a little bit of research. I bought a different birding book first, but upon kind of learning more online, I ended up returning it and grabbing this one instead. So the first one I had gotten had photographs of birds in it, and I thought that was great because, if you're learning about birds, you want to see pictures of those birds. And this book, Sibley Birds West, and so many other birding books have illustrations, and I thought that was odd because why would you choose an illustration over a photograph? And this one, Sibley, it's like the best known one for the United States. It's super well known, very renowned, and I was surprised because it uses illustrations instead of photographs. But upon learning more, it actually makes sense that you would want an illustration, because a photograph can be detailed and specific and exact for the bird that you want to see and identify, but you have to rely on photography. So there's lighting conditions and weather conditions and so many other things that affect the quality of the photograph when it actually gets put in the book. Not to mention color grading and so many other things affect what the bird's plumage will actually look like when you're reading it on the page. Whereas with an illustration, you don't have to worry about any of that because you drew the picture, and you can actually be even more detailed with the images when you draw them yourself, because you can get it exactly how you want it to get perfect identification for the person who's trying to learn about this. So I thought that was really cool, and just, showing a page, it provides so much detail about where you can find these birds, different locations, different, genders, juvenile versus adult, a lot of mating information, call information, what they sound like, what they look like, where you'll find them, tops of trees, low branches, on the ground. It's amazing. This is super duper cool, and I love going out for a walk in the woods or in the mountains around us, seeing a bird I've never seen before, and coming home and being able to identify it and hear. Sometimes it takes me like an hour to find the bird I'm looking for, but when I do, it's such a rewarding experience, and then I know it and I can find it again. So I've been really, really enjoying this. I just leave this on the coffee table and I can pick it whenever. Sometimes it's fun to just flip through and see birds that I may find in the area, even if they're rare, and then keep my eye out for them. So been really, really enjoying this. This is a really favorite purchase recently. Next up, we have a handful of Oxford World Classics. I love these editions. They're some of my absolute favorites. So this is Ford Madox Ford's The Good Soldier. I've never read Ford before, but I've heard his name so many times. I find it hilarious that his first and last name are Ford. That's probably not like a birth name. I would imagine he maybe changed that name. Not really sure. I'll let you know when I find out. But yeah, I picked this up used at a local bookstore. The only thing I know about him was from an essay I read from a collection from A.S. Bayat maybe a year or two ago, and I don't even really remember it because I've never read him, and I was kind of reading without understanding a lot of what she was saying about his work because I don't know his work, but her writing intrigued me enough to want to read him, and the way she wrote about him was really cool. So I'm looking forward to trying this out, and I love Oxford World Classics editions. They have really, really solid introductions. They have solid notation, solid translations when you need them. They're really well put together with chronology and a lot of really cool stuff, forwards and introductions. Big fan of these. I love Penguin as well, and there are a couple Penguins we'll talk about right here on the table, but really, really like the Oxford ones. Also, we picked up Shakespeare's All's Well That Ends Well. Again, I really like these. I know the, the Arden Shakespeare is the really, really big, scholarly, best ones you're gonna find. But again, I like these. It's got some solid stuff in them, some really good introductions. The introductions are usually 50 to 100 pages of introductory information on the play you're reading, on Shakespeare, on when it was staged historically over the half millennia since it's been written and staged for the first time. So a lot of really cool info, and I do enjoy that. I've read one or two other Shakespeare's in the Oxford World Classics, so I'm looking forward to this one as well at some point. Next up is kind of a two-parter. This is all of Sophocles' plays into two collections. So if you had watched my wrap-up of every book I read in 2024, I've already talked about this one. This is Antigone, Women of Trachis, and Electra in one collection, and the other collection here is Oedipus King, Oedipus Ecolonus, Ajax, and Philoctetes. I don't know if I'm saying that right. We're sticking with Philoctetes. So I already read this one. And I'm looking forward to picking up this one. I just got this in the mail. So I got this a while ago, and then this just came in the mail about a week ago. I loved this collection. Oliver Taplin is the editor and translator. I don't think his translations are perfect, but I did really enjoy this. He's got a lot of really cool thoughts and observations on all three plays. I'll talk more about this one at another point, because after I read this second collection, I really want to talk about these two together in a separate video. Just talk about, my experience with Sophocles and how his tragedies really feel to read on the whole. I have read both Oedipus plays from here as well, but I've never read Ajax, and I've never read Philoctetes. I've read, as I like to call them, the Theban tragedies, the two Oedipus plays, and Antigone in here. What Oliver Taplin did, which I think is pretty cool, he talks about how those three plays, it's not an arbitrary grouping to say that you're going to read the Theban plays, but putting them together like that is not how they were intended. They weren't written in that way. They were chronologically written in different points over Sophocles' lifetime. So he groups the plays by what he calls the male tragedies and the female tragedies. I think that's a pretty cool idea, and just a different way of breaking up the way you experience these. So 3 plays or tragedies about female protagonists and 4 about male protagonists. These are Sophocles' 7 surviving plays, and they're, I think, fragments of other things, but this is everything for Sophocles. So I've read 2 of these before, but I'm really looking forward to picking these up soon. I'll be honest, I don't think these covers look very good. I usually really like the Oxford World Classics covers, but I think these are kind of ugly. It is what it is. I'm kind of bummed though, because I never learned my lesson. Please tell me in the comments below, do you order books online? And if you do order books online, do you have any trouble with, books showing up damaged? Do you have any trouble with books showing up in conditions that were not advertised? Because every time I buy a book online, this is what happens, right? I bought this new, and I think it's $15 new. I maybe paid like $11.50 for it, so it was slightly discounted because I got it on 8books, but it shows up. I don't know if you can see this very well. It shows up with like damage, serious damage on the front cover, and like big folds in the back cover, if you can see this at all. If not, just take my word for it. It's really a bummer, and they're willing to give me a refund for it, but the amount of time it takes to repackage this and send it back and drive to the post office and send it off, it's not worth it. And it really bums me out, because I like keeping my books in relatively good condition. And it's such a shame when you buy something new and it just shows up damaged because they don't package it properly. It's really frustrating. And even when I buy stuff used online, because I don't really buy new books very often at all, this is a rare thing for me to purchase. Even when I buy used stuff online, I find that the descriptions that they say don't match what I'm actually getting in the mail. So I find that pretty frustrating, and I never learned my lesson. I just gotta stop buying books online, because I'm so particular about the condition and the quality and the edition I'm buying, and are there stickers on it. It's important to me, and I don't need my books to be in perfect shape. I just want them to be as intended. So it's a little bit disappointing. Nonetheless, really enjoyed this, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this one. Next up, we have a couple Penguins that I got used at the same bookstore that I was buying a couple other Oxfords at as well. It's a used new store near us that I enjoy. They have a lot of solid options. So this one is Beowulf, a verse translation from Michael Alexander. I read Beowulf in, I don't know, high school or something like that. It's been a really, really long time. So I was really excited to find this edition again, and you'll see I actually already read it. I read this last week, so stay tuned for a January wrap-up, and I will be talking about this one, but I did pick this up. I was gonna go for the Seamus Heaney edition, because that's the best known one. That's the one I read in school a long time ago, so it has the Old English on one side and the updated translation on the other. I really like that. I like being able to compare the two. This doesn't have that. This is a verse translation, so it's a very different translation of the story, but I still liked it nonetheless, and if I ever choose to read this again, I would just pick up the Seamus Heaney one next time. Next up, we have She's a Tome All Right. This is Edmund Spenser's The Faerie Queene. This thing is huge, and this is a massive book of poetry. I'm gonna be honest with you, I have no idea what this is about. I don't think I've even heard of it before. Actually, that's a lie. I have heard of it before, because I read, what the hell is the Shakespeare play called? Hold on. As You Like It. There we go, I got this off the shelf. I read Shakespeare's As You Like It last year, and this, in the introduction, this is what I was just talking about with the Shakespeares from Oxford. They're really cool. This, in the introduction, talks about Shakespeare's influence for the play from The Faerie Queene. So I don't really know much about The Faerie Queene. I don't really know what it's about. I don't know how it goes. Structurally, it looks like a whole lot of poetry. But other than that, I don't really know. This is like 1,200 pages with all the notation included. It's really, really big, but I'm interested in checking this out. I don't know if this is the kind of thing you read cover to cover, or if you just pick this up and kind of piece through it. I'm not sure structurally how it works, but I am looking forward to trying this out. There are a lot of larger and longer books that I'm interested in reading this year. I really want to read The Count of Monte Cristo. I really want to read Dracula. I don't even know if that's long, but I just want to read it. I really want to read The Lord of the Rings for the first time. I've never read those books, and they're some of my favorite movies. I watched them a million times. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of larger books that I want to check out this year for the first time. Don Quixote as well, Cervantes, a lot of books, bigger ones that I want to try out. So I don't know if I'll get to this, anytime soon, but it was so cheap, and Penguins, when they're cheap, you pick them up, you pick them up. So this was a cool purchase. I'm pretty excited about this film for whenever I get around to it. Then we have, this is Jim Harrison's The Shape of the Journey. I'm really excited about this one. So this is poetry. If you've watched either of my other two videos, you will know that I love Jim Harrison. I read him for the first time last year and just fell in love with his writing. I've never read his poetry though. I've read 2 novels and a collection of short stories. So this is pretty cool. This was on sale and I just was excited to pick it up because it's such a beautiful book, right? And yeah, this is a big collection. It's new and collected poems, so it spans, I think, a couple decades of his life, which is pretty cool. I know he passed away a couple of years ago, so I'm just really excited to read more of him. Can't stress enough how great it is finding a new favorite author, in at this point in my life with like 20, 30 of his books to check out. It's just really exciting. Someone is screaming, almost in Morse code. 3 longs, a short, 3 longs again. Man, woman, or animal. Pale blue room, how many have died here? Will I with my ears drum to pain 3 longs, 1 short, 3 longs? It's never a yelp, it starts far back in the throat, with 3 longs, a short, 3 longs. All beasts everywhere listen to this. It must be music to the gods. 3 longs, 1 short, 3 longs. I don't know who it is. A beautiful woman with a lion's lungs, screaming 3 longs, 1 short, 3 longs. What do you think? Yeah, how about you? Okay, I mean, don't say that on camera. Oh my gosh. Jesus. And finally, I grabbed a couple books from some little free libraries. I was visiting my partner's family for Christmas. We went down to Phoenix in Arizona. So I was taking a walk in the neighborhood and found a couple books in some little free libraries. All from different little free libraries, actually. There were a ton of different ones around the neighborhood we were walking in, so it's pretty cool. So this is a poetry collection. It's the Penguin Book of Russian Poetry. Just glad to pick up another Penguin, and this is not the kind of thing you want to read cover to cover. I'm just gonna look forward to going through this and picking out poems at my leisure. I love Pushkin. He's someone I really need to read more of. I found Evgeny Onegin pretty cheap recently, the Penguin edition, and I really want to read that soon. So I'm glad because I know there's more Pushkin in here and a whole bunch of other people I've never heard of, so this is cool. Purple Honey by Varlam Shalamov. From a frost-chilled line of poetry, my anguish will drop like a ripe berry. Rosehip juice will die, fine crystals of snow, and a stranger will smile on his lonely way. Blending dirty sweat with the purity of a tear, he will carefully collect the tinted crystals. He sucks tart sweetness, this purple honey, and his dried mouth twists in happiness. I was also able to find Isaac Denison's Carnival. I have heard of Isaac Denison before, but I've never read her, and I'm pretty sure Isaac Denison is a pen name. I don't know her real name, but this is a collection of stories from her. I'm pretty excited about this. I thought the cover was pretty cool, actually. And last but not least, we have Don Hertzfeld's The End of the World. I know Don Hertzfeld from a lot of his animations and a lot of his longer movies and shorts. A lot of people will probably know him from some of his short animations compiled on YouTube from like 15, 20 years ago. I don't know if this is kind of a retelling from a movie. He draws in stick figures, and I don't know if this may seem unappealing to someone who's never seen his work before, but I swear, if you haven't, go check out literally any of his movies, any of his shorts, any of his books. I've never read a book, but I'm excited about this one. His work is just amazingly profound. It's really, really beautiful, and he uses the simplicity of his style of drawing and animation to his favor and his credit, I think. because the ideas that he tackles on such a grand scale, using such simple drawings, I think it works really, really well. So he's really cool. I'm very excited about this one. Another coffee table kind of book, and I'm looking forward to reading this. This is probably like a short, kind of one sitting sort of read, so that's pretty exciting. And that's about all I have for you today. Thank you for coming again. I appreciate you spending some time with me. If you have read any of the books that we've shared today, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think of them, and it may just get me more excited to read some of them sooner rather than later. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.